Hello, welcome to Studio 23 Nashville. I'm Brian.
And he is in trouble today because he's got two redheads in the room with him, so watch out.
That's some hot stuff tonight. That's
I'm
true.
telling you, Laura Powers is our guest. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Studio 23 Nashville with your hosts, Jennifer Herron and Brian Cumming. Today's very special guest is Laura Powers.
Well, welcome to Studio 23 Nashville. Brian and myself are so honored to have this lady here with us. Of course, when you first mentioned her name, I'm like, Laura Powers. Ooh, let me find out what she's up to. And I Googled her. And you know what turned up, Laura?
I do, actually. I think it's the babysitter for The Simpsons was Laura Powers. So, yeah.
Yes,
Kind of
it's their neighbor.
Yes.
Yes.
And was it their neighbor? Okay.
A celebrity psychic?
Okay, yes, a celebrity psychic.
Yeah.
And I think there's a woman bodybuilder and jewelers and stuff. But at least there's nobody that I know of that's like in prison or anything. So
Yeah. So, but this is Laura Powers Music, so check her out.
Yes,
LauraPowers.com is your website, so we can find you easy enough there. Yeah. I'm glad you introduced her to us. Some beautiful music.
Yes, I'm glad you approve. I knew you would. I have been working with Laura for many years in the studio. I came to know her as a very prolific songwriter, and then I discovered that she's also a painter. And I saw a bunch of her paintings on the wall at the Bluebird Cafe because she did a series of portraits of songwriters. Well, tell us a little bit about how painting and music and some of this stuff came to be in your life.
Well, thanks, Brian. I've painted pretty much since I was 7. We were lucky enough to live in Paris. My dad was in the military. And so my sister and I, Mom said, you gave up horseback riding, you just wanted to paint. So I was 7 and 10, and we would trundle off with the adult class and, on location like they did in France, and we'd draw and go back to the studio. So that was my love. I mean, really, when I first smelled oil paints, I'm like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. So anyway, and of course we got to see all the museums and everything. But when I got to Nashville, I thought it was 1994. I'd moved here from Los Angeles. I was doing music, had some bands there, but I really was intrigued by songwriters. And Jill Colucci was one of them, and there was another pretty famous man that I saw speak. And I remember thinking, these people are very literate. They love to use words. There just seemed to be something like a deeper well there. And so I'm like, oh, I like the songwriting thing. And so I came to Nashville for a big seminar, maybe an SAI seminar, and then the boot camp for writing. And, I knew, okay, it's time to move out from Los Angeles. So when I got here, I thought maybe doing a painting series of some well-known female singer-songwriters would be a good idea. And it was a lot of fun. I did it in this tiny apartment, and I had a roommate, and the paintings were about this big. So 12 female singer-songwriters, people like Angela Cassett, few others, Kim Parent, and it was really fun. So the idea was, it was called Golden Muses, and there was going to be a gold leaf element in there. But as I took photographs of the women, I asked for their input. And again, a lot of musicians have a painterly, they love art. So really each and every woman had a very good idea of how she saw herself.
I find it interesting, the correlation between the two, because basically songwriting is putting imagery, with the words.
Yes,
you're painting a picture with
mm-hmm.
words, and then the paintings, of course, with the paintbrush and stuff. So.
And Angela Cassett, who wrote I'm Looking for Something in Red, lovely woman and singer. She said, it was really fun. She's like, I always wanted to be the masthead on a ship. So I'm like, and a masthead you shall be.
Yeah, I remember that. I was going to say, that's the one that it's what an image for a writer and a person to
absolutely,
to identify themselves that
absolutely.
way. There's so much imagination.
And it's still in the Bluebird.
Well, it's not. It was up for several months in there, and we did a benefit, and each and every of the singers, of the female singers, was able to perform. So they'd never performed together previous to that or since, and it sold out like pretty immediately.
I was talking to you a little bit earlier when y'all were downstairs playing about your Celtic influences, and we were talking about Ireland and your family roots, and you were like, "Yeah, you got to be from there," and I'm like, "Yeah, red hair, you too, right." You've got got some pretty famous family, right? When it comes to Irish roots,
let's
ancestry.
just say that my last name is Powers, and there is actually a very nice Powers whiskey from Ireland. So if you call that famous, yes. And I don't know that they're exactly my relatives, but I've had enough Powers whiskey that I feel I can claim.
Yes. Oh, and you cannot have Irish coffee without Powers. Powers is a secret ingredient.
And you learn that in Ireland,
Yes.
which is cool because I went over recently and had an opportunity to, with my boyfriend, to film a real Celtic Irish dancing, very roots and cultural stuff. And it was great, but we did no partying or anything, so the Powers was not imbibed in then.
Well, going to Ireland to record a documentary film, that's pretty...
It was an amazing and remarkable experience. And then the thing that happened a couple of weeks before I left, my sister, who's our family historian, sent me all this information, and it turns out my grandmother, who didn't have the Powers name, but she was an O'Malley, she lived within maybe 7 kilometers of where we were going. So as the Queen, no time in my life the synchronicities have ever happened so strongly. But basically we went there, and in the middle of shooting the documentary, we had a tiny bit of time to go try to find this birth cottage of my grandmother's. And believe it or not, we actually found a living relative there, found the cottage. I got to sing a song to to my elderly cousin, I guess. And then he, of course, went to the back and brought out some moonshine, which we had to toast to. It was, I think that's called bonding.
Yes, over there. That's how they do it in Ireland. And you have one of your O'Malley relatives. Was it the grandmother or great-grandmother?
It's great-grandmother. Yes, her name was Bridget O'Malley. And then there's, of course, a very sad, they love those dramatic stories, a sad song called Bridget O'Malley. So I had learned that in hopes that it might come in handy, and I, was able to sing it to my cousin. So.
You mentioned those sad songs. So what will happen in the pub towards the end of the night is they've all got their drinks up in the air, and everybody's swaying and getting somber, and it's one of those, So what a great
That's our heritage right there.
Will we be able to see the documentary? Or are you still piecing that together?
We're still piecing it together. So I think there's going to be a part that is mostly about the storytellers, and it's in Celtic, which is, not something that most English speakers can understand, but it's really to capture a little bit of the real roots of what, the Irish culture is all about. So I feel honored to, have been a tiny part of that.
So the parts that are in Celtic, you'll have subtitles in English, I guess?
Well, eventually, and it's not that hard to do. I mean, it can be done. Yeah. But I think they're going to use some of that footage. They're doing a museum for the immigration in Connemara, which is where we filmed it. And so they're going to be using some of our footage to show, the traditional Irish music and poetry and dancing. So I'm pretty excited about that. It was really...
Where do you capture the dancing? Is that in the pubs as well?
Yes, indeed, it's in the pub. And we have a wonderful crew here helping us today. Hi, guys. And just so you know, we went from not having a clue, because we had to do this big, it was a very live sounding room, and we just had 2 cameras, and we didn't really have mics, to capture it, lapels. But anyway, so we went from it totally being, doing our very best to the next night we contained it a little bit more, and we got some really good footage, but we had to learn quickly.
You were using the mics on the cameras.
We were. The second night we had another technique, but it was definitely run and gun and learn as you go.
So what is the setting for dancing in a pub? I mean, do people...
A nice live wooden floor, or in this case the tiles were these wonderful kind of cobblestone tiles.
So we can make some noise, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the lady had on kind of what we would call tap dancing shoes. I don't think there was metal on them. And then at the end, boy, they all got up and danced in a big circle, and it was great. But for the real dancing, where they want the tap to happen, they have kind of I guess they would be leather shoes with a small heel.
And with a live band, or?
That's interesting. Yes,
Were they-
yes, I'm thinking.
A fiddle, I guess?
Yes,
Yeah.
fiddle and accordion.
Okay.
That's big there. And guitar, yeah. So I think those were
Very
present at the
rhythmic.
time. Yeah.
Well, we're going to find out about your music in just a second here. We'll be right back on Studio 23 Nashville with Laura Powers.
Hickman County, Tennessee. It feels a lot like home, or how home should feel. Come by, sit a spell. Soak in the goodness that inspired Minnie Pearl to write about this special place. Visit Hickman County, Tennessee's hidden treasure. Be the envy of the neighborhood. Make your friends jealous. Be the first on your block to get official swag from Studio 23 Nashville, Pinkerton Productions, and Brian Cumming. Just visit our store at the bottom of the page and order yours today.
Well, Laura, this is a song. It's on your third Legends of the Goddess album.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily a Celtic song.
Not really, actually. It's more, I usually have a few that are a little more universal. I would say this is probably one of them.
It sounds like a pop song in a way, you know. Well, when I heard your very spare version that you showed to me, I thought, you know, the acoustic guitar up high, maybe there's room for something low with an electric guitar. And
it's a very good call, really. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because in the record, it's kind of chimey and high string, but that's what I'm doing with the capo.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoy the kind of Americana version. Here we go with Loved You Forever. All right.
The power, the glory, I see the
Well, did you ever think of yourself as a kind of a Celtic artist? I know the material on that Legend series was kind of aimed at an audience that would appreciate that.
Yeah. You know what it really is, Brian, is a couple of things. One is, at that time, I was looking at, being an older woman doing music, and I noticed that Enya happily sold millions of records and she never toured. I thought, But she's very, and wonderful, of course, she totally kind of invented that super amazing genre, but it's very airy. Yeah. And as a songwriter with songwriting roots, I thought, what if there was a little bit more earth and air in there? So that's really what got me started on the Celtic music. And it's like a rich tapestry, and it just seems like you pull ideas down through that tapestry. And so far, I just haven't run out of ideas. It hasn't run its course yet. So,
well, I know Enya was a very successful artist. Was there a chart? There wasn't a Celtic chart per se, was it? Was it New Age or something where she did well? Or, I know she was probably
she did. She would have been considered Celtic New Age, but yes, the New Age charts. She would have topped that with the occasional song, like in a movie, so that would top the pop charts and things like that. But I think because people really do value the relaxation and the esoteric, music that she has, that a lot of people have a Enya record tucked in there somewhere. So she was kind of a way shower of what could be done.
Yeah. Well, I sure like what you do. Laura, we've got a history. You were bringing lots of songs into my studio, and we did lots of things.
We sure did.
I'm kind of curious how the Celtic idiom was part of, you kind of discovered that, but you were also writing for the Nashville Marketplace. And it was, you had a publisher from New York, and he was encouraging you to...
He was more open to pop things, and he signed 5 writers. I was the only female. And they were not traditional country writers, really. I think we all wrote a few songs here and there that were more traditional, but that was kind of nice. And when I had the idea to do what I would call Celtic infused music, so often the female voices are very high, and it's wonderful, but I don't really have that kind of a voice. And I thought, well, what if I brought an earthier element to the air, and then the songwriting? And though, throughout the many years that I've been selling my CDs, it's been kind of in a new age market, and they don't really write songs. It's instrumental all the time. So I wanted to bring a songwriting element to it. I'm like, gosh, why not write a great song with some of this? So I think that's what gave me the idea. And like I mentioned before, I was inspired by Enya, the fact that she was, in her 40s and not touring, and being very successful there. I thought, well, maybe there's something I can do here. And it's kind of interesting. To me, the kind of Arthurian legends is such a myth, and it's such a rich area. So I liken it to like a tapestry, like above my head, of all these rich blues and golds, and even the language. And so even when I write something that's more of a personal song, it's like I'm reaching up and pulling it through this tapestry. And so even some of the songs that are a little more universal of my albums, like I've Loved You Forever, which is one of them, it just seems to get a little bit of that imagery, a little bit of the magic dust from the tapestry, if you will. And then, the band used to say that if you say the congregation gathered by the river, it just evokes a whole thing rather than saying the crowd came out to the sidewalk, and you can just in a moment see how important that is. So I kind of look for imagery that is maybe a little bit more Old English or just more evocative. It's fun.
Very nice.
Well, was there a particular point where you decided you were the artist, or you were writing songs that you could perform as an artist, as opposed to songs for the Nashville?
That's a very good point. Well, to be honest, the songs that I wrote for the Celtic, it's like I feel like I write the song to be the best it can be, and it's like, uh-oh, I got to sing it now. And again, a lot of it has a lot of range, and I don't have that kind of high, super straight Irish type voice. So that has been a big challenge, you know, to actually sing my songs. What I envisioned was I was the storyteller, and that other people would cover the songs. And in a really neat way, I've actually had, well, and I'll take that as a compliment. Yes. I've actually had, you know, more people cover my songs, not trying, just putting my art out there. So that feels really nice, you know. So a few years back, NPT used my stuff for years. When Michael McDonald was saying, you know, NPT is important, because it was like, that was my music in the background.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of their new branding for the station idea for maybe 4 or 5 years. So that was really cool too.
Where all has it been used? It's been used TV, movies as well?
Movies, I just got a BMI statement that shows a film usage in France. I've had a lot of my music on Celtic compilations distributed through a French and Canadian distributor. So it's interesting. You know, you just try to get it out there, and these things pop up. So, and you know. Do
the French and Canadians feel some kind of kinship with the Celtic tradition? Is there a?
I think so. You know, the Canadian, there's a singer-songwriter that does very well up there that is Canadian, and I think they look to their Celtic roots very strongly. So the really neat thing about, well, not only working with you and with the context of this album, is that I liken it to, you know, you gather your flowers and you arrange them. It's like sometimes when we co-write a country song, your co-writer will be, well, you know, this artist would never cut it. You know, would never cut it without. We can't say beer. And so I liken that to like starting to cut the heads off of your roses. And in this case, it's like, if it sounds good, this is the rock and roll adage that I live by. If it sounds good, it probably is. And that's the only rule you need. Isn't that awesome? It's like, oh, is this the best sound we can find? Does the song want to do this? Does it want a longer instrumental part? That's all you need. And it's so nice and liberating when you're not working with the confines of trying to get the song cut.
Right. I think it's amazing, though, you don't always have to have an instrument, so to speak. It doesn't have to be a saxophone or anything. I mean, whether you're playing the countertop, water jugs, or whatever, you know, it works, right? Creating different sounds. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I've really enjoyed it. I didn't think that it was something we couldn't do. It's just now that we can look back on it, we did it, and it was
exactly. It's like, well, I guess it worked. And that's the other thing that's nice, too, is that you can put something down, and if it doesn't bother you 2 days later, then it probably is working. And you know, just kind of that gentle, this is probably cool, you know, and you know, I don't have the budget and even the maybe patience, you know, like Quincy Jones did how many 2,000 mixes of Billie Jean. Of course, the second one was the one they used. But the British have a tradition of, in rock music, just getting that sound and then printing it, and then you get the next instrument, and then you build and you build. And that's pretty locked in. I mean, that's their sound. And that's what I did with this music. I never went back. Because sometimes people in different studios, not you, Brian, different studios, they said, well, you can come back and get a different bass sound. And I'm thinking, nope, we're going to get it now and move on, you know, because I just don't have the kind of time for that.
Right, and capture that moment for sure. All
We're
right.
capturing some doggy moments.
I tell you what.
Is that a bone?
Now this is nice conversation when the dogs are kicking back, eating dinner, eating their bones with us. Studio 23.
I was hoping it wasn't
Glad
one of
you're
your
with us. We'll be right back.
Transformer thingies.
Now available, Come Out Swingin', the new CD by the Brian Cumming Jazz Quartet. Come Out Swingin' is available at Studio23Nashville.com and all major digital retailers.
Sing, come out swinging.
Come Out Swingin' by the Brian Cumming Jazz Quartet. Get yours today.
Laura Powers, it is a great treat to have you on this show.
Thank you, Brian. It's great
There
to
are
be
many
here.
barriers that we're breaking here. We're
Okay.
innovators. Number one, you're the first artist to wear gloves while performing.
Good, that's good.
And number two, this is the first time I've done a song that I co-wrote, and it's because you and I wrote this together.
We did.
I'm very happy about that.
No, that's great. Love it.
And you know, the song, we did it around 1998 or something. I
Okay.
can't remember the exact date, but I know I did find it because I had forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, it was tricky to play.
It's tricky to play. We should say in Nashville, it's got over 4 chords, so you may want to fasten your seatbelts at home.
You may want to fasten your seatbelt. Well, anyway, I'm very happy that we wrote this song. As you may know, I did a swing album and I got to record this song,
Fabulous,
and
yeah.
I'm very happy about it. And then when you agreed to do it on the show, that meant I had to go back to school, find out how to play it in your key. So we both know that we have worked hard to reach this moment
There we
where
go.
you get to put on the gloves and we get to do A Piece of the Sky. And thank you again for co-writing that song. Are you ready? What's a good sultry tempo? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I've always been a dreamer, floating through the world as my cup overflows. It's truly astounding, the beauty around me, yes, I'm the one smelling the rose. I've never understood the 9-to-5 world where no daydreaming's allowed. The fuss and the bustle, the rush and the muscle, just to get ahead of the crowd. I fly like a kite without a string, climbing and soaring on dreams. Some build their castles of gilded stone, surrounded and tied down to things that they own, and they'll get a slice of the pie, but I'll take a piece of the sky. But you'll never reach me by letter or card. My zip code is a wide open blue. Come on, if you're willing, this flight is so thrilling. I'd love to show you this view. I fly like a kite without a string, climbing and soaring on dreams. Some build their castle of gilded stone, surrounded and tied down to things that they own, and they'll get a slice of the pie, but I'll take a piece of the sky. Oh yeah, they'll get their slice of the pie, but I'll take a piece of the sky, of the sky.
Woo! So worthy of the gloves.
Thank you.
I love that.
I love it.
I hope we get to take that to a nice cabaret stage someplace.
someday,
where you can wear a
sometime.
sparkling gown. You can get up on the piano. And
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Including this. Look at this. She has
This is the first
everything
time.
on Michael Jackson. Forget this. What was it? Glitter gloves or whatever he had.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is great. What a touch. So tell us about the LA Party Dolls.
Well, you know, I've started a few things in my life, and they've just kept chugging along. So I have a band out of Los Angeles called the Los Angeles Party Dolls, the LA Party Dolls, and it's been some of the most fun I've ever done performing in my life. So these gloves are actual part of my costume, my blue sequin costume. And we do everything from, Dusty Springfield to the Ronettes to little Connie Francis and the Supremes, of course. And I've been singing with these two other gals for over 24 years now. And
what does your
it's
hair look
amazing.
like?
I have a tall black beehive.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
It's a great petticoat. The works, right?
Yeah, we have poodle skirts, and then we have more of a Supremes look.
And so you're kind of choreographed? And
Yeah, everything is, stop in the name of love.
Oh, that is great.
It's
But
really
there's
fun.
no Barry Gordy over you that telling you have to do
No,
it.
there isn't, and maybe that's why we've had so much fun. Yeah, the girls are great, and we've played in Vegas and Reno and done a lot of corporate stuff. And then we've sung the national anthem for the Lakers.
Wow.
Oh my
And
God,
then
just
our-
the girls out of... Oh.
Yeah, just there out on the floor, and then
Did you get to meet Jack Nicholson?
I didn't. It was like the week after. Was it Magic Johnson out in L.A.?
Oh.
It was the week after he retired or had to leave, I think, with health problems. So it was kind of somber. We added hopefully a little fun to it, and then we went up to the box, the fancy. Not
the
president's
press
box,
yeah.
but where we would normally be allowed to go and just like party
suite with
with
the
like
catering,
Sean
yeah.
Cassidy, and we had
Oh
the
my
whole room
gosh.
because we still had our costumes.
Oh, that's-
We had
And I
everybody
love that she
singing
knows
all
who
that.
Sean Cassidy is.
Yes.
It's just the greatest.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So you got to indulge your affection for that material.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
So-
mean, what great harmonies. And so it is interesting that really harmonies way back in the day, singing with my family in the car. And I can remember the moment we were singing Home on the Range. I was the youngest, and my mom threw in a harmony. And I was probably about 4, and I'm like, what's that? And she said, oh, that's a harmony, honey. You'll be singing like that. You'll be singing it soon. And I just remember, like, I want to do that. You know how these moments in life are just clear as a bell? So that was one of them. I know. They're stunning, aren't
The
they?
Powers Family Singers.
Yes.
In the car.
In the car. And to this day, like when we did change out some personnel over the years with the party dolls, one of the best indicators that they would be good is if they sang harmonies with their sisters growing up.
Yeah.
Because you can't just learn harmonies.
Right.
So it's not something you can kind of wish to do. And of course in Nashville we see the best of the best, that they like read your lips and sing the harmony and the right words, which is pretty amazing.
And a lot of those background groups in Nashville are families. It's that
Exactly.
family harmony
Yes.
thing.
And
yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
classic, yeah, throughout
Right.
time.
Amazing. I've got to see the LA party dolls. Is it a private party thing, or do y'all do shows?
We do a
tour?
lot of
Yeah.
private parties. We're going to do some shows, kind of unveil a new show in Palm Springs and Los Angeles in February. But we're now going to tracks, which of course never would have been done and we have our band. We'd love to work with them more, but we thought it would make us a little bit more mobile, and we'll have a screen of fun movies and sing-alongs with Gilligan's Island and all sorts of kind of wacky stuff.
So when you do a show in Palm Springs, is that for several nights, a week?
This will be because we're kind of getting our feet wet with the new show. We're going to rehearse, do a show there, and then the next night do one in Los Angeles, and maybe pick up a couple more dates when we're out there.
Do you book the band?
I do, and we're looking for help. We're looking for management. Yeah, because I think that does work better when somebody else does that.
You would go over great in Branson, Missouri. I went on a trip up there,
That's
and
true.
I saw Fabian in concert.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody remember Fabian? I was howling
The real
at the top of my
Fabian?
lungs. The real
Fabian.
Fabian.
Still at it.
Oh, yes.
Well,
He's still a
some of
cutie
them-
pie.
Some of them are great. We were asked to work at the Surf Ballroom where Buddy Holly had his last, the winter dance party. They do a winter dance party every year there. And so kind of like the Fabian, Frankie Avalon was there, and he was fabulous. He was so much fun and gracious, and he had the big screen, and he had a lot of his, like, oh yeah, that's when I did that. So we had a whole very easygoing repartee, and the Crystals were there. We got to meet them, and they did the Do Run Run and Be My Baby, and so anyway, it's all good. It's just such happy music,
Right.
really, and that's why I've done it for so long. It's because everybody watching us is happy, whether they're toddlers to great grandparents. You know, the women are back there going,
And the lyrics are always so catchy
Yeah.
on those songs from that era, so you can't help but sing along.
Yeah,
It kind
exactly.
of falls into place. Definitely.
like, it's my party, and you know, and the ladies are like, I had my hair like her. Yeah. You know, we can see them out in the audience because I wear the beehive, and the girl has the other girls have bouffants, you know, blonde and redhead. So you see them like talking to each other. It's like, I know what you're saying. But it
so
was a
much
fun
different
time.
from the trilogy, right?
Oh,
That's a
gosh,
stretch.
yeah.
It is, and before I wrote the Legends of the Goddess, my serious music, I had a dear friend say, you know, when are you going to write your serious music? And like, why are you still doing this other thing? And I said, well, I know what you mean. I said, but it gives me so much joy, and everybody else. It's such a happy event that it's almost like irresistible. You know, it's not like being the brooding dark artist looking at your shoes. Do you know what I mean? We're not bringing you down, folks. We're bringing you up. People are dancing. And the little kids come out. We would do a lot of classic car shows, like in Reno, where everything stops for something called Hot August Nights. And we were one of the bands that would come back every year for like over 10 years. And people would come out and see us. And then the little ones would have, you know, the little poodle skirts. And so it's a kind of a family, it's a fun family thing. The music is great.
But in a way, it's a kind of an illustration of American art, American culture, you know, because it's classic, great songs from a particular period, and just because they're popular and make people happy doesn't mean they're not great.
Right, exactly. You know? And then
Well, Laura, once again, we're innovating. we're crossing boundaries.
We're crossing
we do have
boundaries.
A plastic water bottle that has served as a percussion instrument on one of your albums, perhaps.
Probably.
And well, you recorded this song at home?
I did, yeah. This was just kind of a fun one, but it's a cool song about Beltane, which is a Celtic holiday. So I will just enjoy to hear a little of Brian's percussion on this.
It's Beltane Fire. Do you know anything else about the holiday, a particular time of year?
Yeah, it's May the 1st.
Oh, okay. Kind of a springtime
Yeah.
happy party.
It's definitely a happy party.
All right, well, I'm glad you told me. I will get in the mood here. All right.
Okay.
Oh, the fire of Beltane night, high, high the firelight, and my love, I'll meet you there, the turn of May, the sweet night air. Oh, oh, the spell, the magic strewn, the lover's kiss beneath the moon. And I know my heart's desire will reflect in the Beltane fire. Oh, a circle cast, a circle drawn, a blackthorn bush, a willow wand, a wand. Oh, my love, there is no sleep, for in this dark my eyes can see, and by this night, by yon oak tree, by the fires of Beltane, come to me.
Well, we would like to talk a little about your Legends of the Goddess series. This is something that you came up with, and you've been selling these albums for several decades at this point.
Well, a little over one at least, yeah.
Okay, well, tell us how that started and how you perform the music, or you do tour with it sometimes?
A little bit. Occasionally I'll be asked to, go to Milwaukee or Ohio. I think I've done a few concerts there, but then I have to figure out music to play because really it's pretty highly produced, which is fun, and that's what I've done with you, Brian. So, stripping it down to guitar vocals. Actually, one thing that I do that is fun when I do travel is I usually find a local, like either guitar player or drummer, like percussionist.
Yes.
And I've worked out, I challenge myself each time I perform somewhere to do more like audience participation.
Oh, nice.
Because the songs aren't, don't really lend itself to that. So I actually wrote a children's song so they could come up and dance and kind of act out the words. But one fun thing I do at the end, or at least I think it's fun, is I encourage people to bring percussion, and then I get all the drummers up on stage at the end, and I have one person kind of the leader drummer that I've already worked out a little pattern with. Oh, and then I take words from the audience during the break. So I make a song up on the spot. But I kind of make it easy on myself because, I don't do the guitar with it. So what I'll do is I kind of have an idea for a chorus, kind of an all-purpose chorus, and then I'll write down all the words and have that on a mic or a stand, and then I'll step up to the microphone and sing that, and then I'll step back and the drummers are going the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
And then when I'm ready to go again, I step up. And people love when you're on the edge. They love it. They love a good train wreck, and I guess I'm willing to play along with it. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow.
Pretty neat.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Matt Davis used to do that on his TV show.
Oh, really?
Do you remember that back in the day? Where he would have the audience call out things and try to write a song on the spur of the
there.
moment. And I cannot even imagine, how quickly your brain has to move and make that music. Well, because it's not just like saying words.
Right.
Or making a
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah,
You've got to
got it.
make it flow with some music.
Yeah.
That is
There
an
is-
amazing
it's
talent.
such a variety of music that has come through you, and I like it all. There's so much. The L.A. Party Dolls kind of focus on '60s girl groups, and then the Celtic stuff with a totally different sonic landscape. And you've done commercial pop and country. And
It's neat. It's American music.
Yes.
And when I was living in, after college, I went and lived in Paris, very bohemian for 3 years, and sang in rock clubs and had a little record deal, very popular. It was the 80s. And it was a blast. It was great. But, they never, ever expected me to only do rock or whatever. I was in a bluegrass band over there.
in France.
In France, the Transatlantic Cowboys. It was kind of an all-star band.
Was this the group that got signed? And you were
No,
right?
no, I got signed by myself. But so that's where the songwriting thing was always interesting, because when I was an American singer over there, I always had to translate lyrics. And that's how I ended up getting my record deal, is because it was a song a French man heard, and then the producer said, we're going with this American girl, I want you to hear it in English. So I'd done the words
So you're
translated.
fluent in French, and you see
Well,
that?
not that. I mean, I'm kind of fluent, but you can always,
Brush
figure
up.
out. Yeah, it's not that hard to translate from French into English. It's much harder to translate into a foreign language. But I thought that was really neat that they didn't expect you to be pigeonholed.
Right.
They absolutely expected you. Well, of course you do bluegrass. Of course you do rock. Because it's all American music. I hadn't done the oldies at that point, the
Yeah.
60s music then, but I mean, we had a little smattering of everything in our club. It wasn't like we had to be like here in the States. The top 40 is very, you've got to do what the club owners want you to do. It was very, you were much more respected as an artist over there than you were.
We were talking a little earlier about your years in Philadelphia and how you became exposed to that side of soul music and the spinners and the stylistics.
Well, the
of that.
Stylistics, for some reason, just had a lot of songs out then, and we had been talking about how they're really orchestrated, and not that my Celtic stuff really is exactly like that, but I found that I enjoyed kind of giving a prelude, a postlude. It's like it's literary. I've always felt my Celtic stuff, it's like reading a book. If people like it, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if they like it, they often will buy everything. And it's almost like a little postcard to your listener, because you're finishing up a song and you take it into the next song sometimes. And so I guess it would be more like the concept albums of that maybe we grew up on, where you're presenting a body of work and it does fit together in a certain way. And I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that gets reappreciated just in general, because now it's very singles driven, you know,
Right.
with music.
With the downloading, I think it's created that atmosphere. And I heard another singer say something to the effect of what you were saying. Well, if you just buy the one song, it's like reading one chapter of the book. You don't have a clue what I'm about or anything else. So, very interesting. I think it is coming full circle, yeah.
And it does relate to the technological changes in the music business. And
Right.
an album, that's in our mind, is a large physical object that has artwork.
Yeah.
And Laura, having painted the covers for her Legends of the Goddess series, you know, that it's so important to see that as part of the experience of hearing the music and, you know, receiving the postcard from you.
Well, and that is an interesting point, because actually the music that I made with the Legends of the Goddess is a little deeper, if you will, more, I don't know if complex is the right word, more layers to it. Because when I paint music, I mean, and that too, when I paint, I will only listen to special music where the writer has given us something deeper. Do you know what I mean? If you know, if you're going out on a Friday night, you might want to put on some AC/DC or something, you know. But when I'm listening, it's going to be a writer like a Richard Thompson or a Sean Colvin that is an artist. And so part of what I wanted to do is present music that is a little deeper, that I would like to paint to, in hopes that somebody else gets that deeper experience as well. So.
I mean, it's like you owe it to your own art to be inspired
And
by
you know-
something that has layers.
And interestingly, it's done much better for me doing this thing that is very much, you know, of my heart and my own music. It's really my art, and then the country, you know, trying to be in that market, because I mean, really, all of my friends have fabulous songs that are unheard in that market. I mean, just, you know, hit songs, and I may have a couple that deserve to be heard, but probably never will. So it's nice to have done this little art piece, and then to have that music. You know, it's been covered, it's been used in the MPT station ID. So
It's amazing.
Not
we have enjoyed visiting with you so much. Be sure you check out her website. Again, it's laurapowers.com. She is not on The Simpsons. She cannot tell your future, I don't think. But she can sing some great music and paint some beautiful pictures. So be sure you check out laurapowers.com. Thanks for joining us on Studio 23 Nashville.
We've had a great time with Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank
for joining
you.
us.